Well, it was time to let go of my Manjaro Deepin build and move on to another build which is partially familiar and partially not. So now we're going to have a look at Linux Mint Debian Edition. Of course, Linux Mint is my favorite distro. Particularly, I like the Cinnamon desktop for how it looks, the resemblance to the Windows environment, which I have found through a lot of testing is the best environment for me. Another of my favorite distros is Debian. So you'd think that Linux Mint Debian Edition is a very good distro for me and that I might recommend it. So do I? Well, we'll get the final answer for that in a few weeks when I have a few weeks on this distribution. But for today, I just want to talk about the installation procedure. Linux Mint Debian Edition has two installers built in. There is the default installer, and it also has Calamaris. So if one of the installers fails, try the other one out. I found this very useful because I personally have had issues installing Linux Mint Debian Edition. It might be because I'm installing it to an external hard drive. It might be because for whatever reason, the system will not accept an install from me unless I first wipe my external drive. It gives you the option in the installer to choose which partition to use, but for whatever reason, I could only choose a swap partition, and I wasn't actually able to select the partition that I wanted to install it on. So the good thing is it comes with the disks application, so I can get in there. I wiped the entire drive, and then I went on with my installation procedure, and I think I actually used the Calamaris installer to install it. So the installation did take me a few times. It did install well. Now on to the software and the updates. I updated it rather than updating it through the basic Linux Mint updater. I did end up updating it through the terminal, which had no problems at all, and also all of the software that I want to use on a regular basis, everything from the closed source things like Skype up to the open source Chromium, VLC, Kodi, all these other applications that I want to install on my distro, they were all available. I did have a problem installing Chromium though through the terminal, and I ended up installing that instead through the package manager. Now, as far as multimedia, the Debian Edition has a link to install the multimedia codecs. It does not install them or give you the option to install them during the installation of the distribution, but it is right there on the menu. I did forget about that, but since it is an item on the menu when you first install it under the media section, I saw that, clicked it, installed the multimedia. So hopefully there's no issues there. I'll know in a few weeks whether there's issues with playing media files down the road. As far as the theming, I went ahead and installed several different themes from online just to have a look at which one I might want to use, and I settled on Glass Gaussius theme, which gives us a nice darker themed mint, kind of like the other glassy ones that I'm running on several of my other distributions. I went with the GNOME icons because I don't really like the old Linux Mint icons, and they did not give us the newer ones from the more recent Linux Mint 19, and so I had to go with either the GNOME icons, install an extra icon pack, or just go with the old ones that I don't really like. So I went with the GNOME icons just because they're acceptable to me. This is a short-term distro, so that's okay. For the window borders, I chose my Mint Dark, my Mint Y Dark, and Mint Y Dark also for the controls, and that set up my theming. And then I went ahead and set the system up like I would set up any other Linux Mint. Formatted the clock in such a way that it gives me the date, the time exactly the way I like it. I throw my show the desktop over in the bottom right corner. I put the most used applications as a quick launch bar by the menu, and I did remove the title menu, so it's simply the Linux Mint icon now. So all of the setup is good, and I did choose a wallpaper to show us that I am running Linux Mint, choosing this nice green wallpaper. So that's my basic theming and setup. As far as adding my home folder, there were no issues. Of course, I keep a copy of the home folder for this particular computer on my NAS because this is a computer that the operating system changes at least once a month. So I move everything over there. I had no issues except evolution, but those files did not transfer properly from Manjaro for some reason. I'm not all that concerned as evolution. The only thing I'm concerned about is not the past emails, but the account setups and things like that, which all transferred over perfectly fine. The entire setup occurred in less than an hour's time. So that's my setup. What are the possible concerns as we look forward to running on Linux Mint Debian Edition? Well, one of the biggest challenges that I found right out of the box is some of the software is older. Being that this is based on Debian Stretch, which is almost a year old, in fact, probably over a year old at this point in time, it does not contain a lot of the newer packages, including the GIMP 2.10 and the LibreOffice 6. So we're still running older versions, 2.8 of GIMP, and we are running version 5.2 in LibreOffice. Everything else, though, seems to work. The other issue that I will possibly encounter is the audio issues on Kodi that has occurred on every Debian edition that I have used. So, of course, I have figured out how to fix that. So if that is a problem, I'll fix it and report it. Of course, some other people are saying that there's some libraries that may be missing on some versions of Debian and Linux Mint Debian Edition. So we're going to have to look into that. Basically, I want to put the thing through some testing. How does it work for adding thumbnails? How does it work for basic text editing? Various types of media formats, Skype communication, web conferences, things like that. These are all things that I'm going to test. And of course, because we're on an older version of Debian, older versions of many packages, I'm going to guess that I'm going to see the familiar stutter that I have always found on media on most distributions. Of course, the Deepin OS did not give me such stutter, neither did Solace, both of which seem to be much better builds for running media systems. All that being said, I'm excited to run with Linux Mint Debian Edition for a little while, and we're going to do a little bit of extra testing on this system as well, just to see what types of things we can come up with. So thanks for watching this video, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux. I hope you've enjoyed this video from Switched to Linux. If you'd like to help support the channel, check out the links at the top. There is another video over here. You can check out our Patreon page down here. And you can check out shop.switchedtolinux.com for information on a t-shirt like this or some other designs. Thanks for watching, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.